Okay, another thing associated with the 2016 election is somebody that we've called Special Gary.
Yep, Special Gary.
And I think that was a character that was on Crank Yankers, right? Like that show on Comedy Central. It's a kid that... No, it was Special Ed. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Special Eddie. Yeah. Gary Johnson, and part of the reason why we want to bring up Gary Johnson is because, we both supported Ron Paul around 2012 time frame, a little bit before that. And what we've noticed is Gary Johnson, unfortunately, seems to be cashing in on the Ron Paul revolution that happened around the 2012 time frame.
Yeah.
Which the mainstream media sabotaged successfully,
sure.
Unfortunately.
He just wasn't as overt as Trump is, and nor did he have the social following, but go on.
I think if he would have continued, like if he ran in 2016, I think Ron Paul could have been.
Well, he should have.
He retired.
He should have. He should have prepared for that and gone to WWE and did some wrestling.
Yeah.
Had a TV show.
Find out how to rally up a crowd and stuff like that and be controversial. Yeah.
His problem was he spoke too logically.
Yeah, he was too much of a nerd, I think, for most people.
His points made too much sense.
Yeah. Didn't have the crowd appeal that Trump seems to have. Special Gary, when they asked him at the Libertarian primary, I think that was the convention. They had a debate amongst a whole bunch of Libertarian candidates, see who was going to get the nomination. And they asked him what the non-aggression principle was, which is the founding principle of Libertarian ideology and philosophy. And if you believe in the non-aggression principle...
It's pretty much what it sounds like.
Right. I don't have a right to aggress upon you any harm or anything that gets in the way of your constitutional rights.
My freedom ends where yours begins.
Exactly. And, I can live my life. I'm my own autonomous individual and can live my life the way I best see fit as long as it doesn't affect the liberties, affect you,
encroach upon me,
your rights or your liberties, right? Now, there's some details by which, you can get into some
sure, there are always edge cases and nuances.
Right, like when it comes to pollution, right? If I'm a business and I pollute the waters and the air, then I'm kind of encroaching on the rights of other people to live in a clean environment. Well,
you could say the same thing
for there.
You could say the same thing for the financial industry, right? The point is that there's edge cases, and it's not quite so complicated, so clear cut as that all the time. But the principle still stands, right? We can at least agree on that.
Right. And he literally said questions like that were over his head.
Yeah, it's no wonder he refuses to debate Joel Stein.
Yeah, actually, there was, I read yesterday, it was very interesting. There have been 3 different organizations that have tried to get that debate going, right, for them to host it. Then there was one called Call Out, spelled with Q-U-A-L, out, which they said they were going to host an online debate with Stein and Johnson, and they offered $10,000 to both Stein and Johnson to come debate. So literally they get paid $10,000 to just participate in a debate. That's not a bad deal at all.
Yeah.
Jill Stein and her camp immediately agreed. Gary Johnson and the Libertarians, it's been 2 or 3 weeks, and they haven't heard anything. So that kind of makes me wonder, if he wants to be in the televised debate, then how are we supposed to take him seriously to get into that debate if he won't debate some other third-party member? So
I could understand, I'm throwing him a bone here and saying I could understand not knowing what Aleppo is, right? You really should as a presumptive statesman.
I won't give him that bone.
Okay, but
you're running for president, you should know what's going on.
Okay, so maybe he had a moment, but when you ask someone who is the leader of North Korea and they don't know,
that's problem.
That's problematic.
Yeah.
I really draw the line there.
The country that just had a successful nuke test. Yeah.
Well, not only that, but he couldn't name one statesman that he admired. I don't know. Just throw out a name.
he couldn't even do that.
He couldn't even throw out a name. Just shoot first and figure out a way to support that person.
Interestingly enough, his VP, Bill Weld, was just spitting out names.
Yeah.
At that same.
Yeah, but there's a guy who's also just come short of endorsing Hillary Clinton.
Sure. Yeah. I get that, but that's what makes the Gary Johnson phenomenon all that more bizarre.
And one thing I'd like to point out is how easy he is to ire. I remember I was watching an interview.
He's quick to anger. Yeah.
When he was asked about the question of illegal immigration, right? Which is, I think it's a question on every American.
Don't call them illegal immigrants.
Yeah, and he got really defensive over that, and he said, "Oh, it's an undocumented American." He starts going on this tirade, and I think a lot of people that are supporting the libertarian, platform in general are concerned about that, and I think that it's not just a way to alienate your voters, but it's the manner in which he responded to that makes me very suspicious of his mental health.
Yeah, well, that's where I came up with the idea. I had two theories working with what other. I mean, he's done a whole, and I picked up on this before before he started saying really dumb things. Okay, when I would watch him speak, something seemed off. Like in his eyes.
His eyes don't
just
track
something,
properly
just
like that.
His expressions and stuff. And I thought he was just high. I thought he was really, really stoned.
In his defense, he said he's abstained from marijuana this entire presidential run, which I give him props for that. But
he admits to being, and he was the CEO of THC lozenges before running, I believe.
Right.
Now, so he was likely into the cannabis before he ran. Right? Well, if he said that he's abstained, then maybe it's not him being high, it's something else. Right?
I don't know. Like, I kind of half-hearted, like half tongue-in-cheek, half seriously believe that George Bush, for example, has done so many drugs throughout his life that his brain is just permanently fried and he's running on a perpetual high. And I kind of see that with Johnson, too.
He's just burned his circuitry out?
Yeah, he's just gone.
I was skeptical when you said that about GW. About Bush, but then the more I thought about it, the more I was like,
he's kind of slow and his facial expressions.
Because his brother isn't that bright either.
Yeah,
but his brother's not the same. Yeah, right. Yeah, his brother's not the same sort of dopey. Silliness that he is.
Yeah, like GW's like in a fog, right? Because that circuitry isn't there. It's just burnt.
Yeah, I mean, what do you say? Well, I got a C- in economics when I was in college, but I got an A+ in cutting taxes. Like silly shit like that. You're like, oh man, you've been dumb for a long time.
Yeah.
Like there's something really wrong with you. And I see something like that with Gary Johnson. But the interesting about it though, thing about it though is I found out that he first started using cannabis to substitute pain meds.
Yeah.
After he had like a paragliding accident, or he went on like a skydiving trip.
Sure.
So his chute got caught up, and he broke several. He really messed himself up.
So it's conceivable he could have irreversible brain damage.
I think he's got brain damage, or maybe it's both. Maybe it's the cannabis.
And that would explain the foggy Aleppo moments and the quick ease with which he is.
To me specifically, what I think really, because if it's cannabis, then he wouldn't be so quick to anger, I wouldn't.
Yeah, in fact, it'd be the opposite, right?
Right, I would assume. But the quick to anger thing, that's a hallmark of people with brain damage. Because their frontal lobe circuitry is
destroyed, so there's not that barrier between that and the amygdala. And
exactly. Your frontal lobes are the things that can put the brakes on any emotional outlashes that you'll have. So if the circuitry there is a little fried because of some head trauma or whatever, he's going to be very quick to anger.
Yeah.
There are actually some cases of people with TBI who they have violent mood swings and stuff like that. That's why. Their circuitry is smashed to hell to such to the extent where, their neocortex can't control their emotional centers.
There have been literally cases of people being impaled through the head via rebar or whatever it is in construction accidents. And these people
was the hallmark.
survived.
They were normal aside from
the fact
irritable.
that they were very, very irritable.
Right. I should remember the patient's name. In neuroscience,
it was a construction accident, right, where he fell 2 stories.
It was a railroad spike. No. He had a railroad spike right through the front part of his skull. He survived it, but he was just incredibly irritable after that. That would make a lot of sense with Gary Johnson. But
Sure.
one really sad part is that a lot of the millennial generation, I like the fact that they're going towards third parties, but the fact that they're throwing their lot in with Gary Johnson, that's pretty disappointing.
Yeah, I think the whole point of this election should not be just like, oh shit, these other two candidates suck and we don't like them, let's just reach for straws. It should be like, no, I'm going to examine the issues, I'm going to examine this candidate, and genuinely see who I feel is best for the election. I mean, otherwise you're basically having, instead of a false dichotomy, you're having a false trichotomy, really. You're just going from one to the other, whichever is worse. It's the lesser of, instead of lesser of two evils, it's the lesser of three. And I'd really like to see a cultural paradigm shift away from that.